Hello, Graham Vincent, violin maker and musician, and
Hiya, Thibaut Jaberg.
so it's start of week 3 for Thibaut in the workshop in an incredibly wet and windy Somerset.
Yeah, it is.
It's been we've got a little stream outside the front which we've never had before. So anyway, I have printed off a few of the comments and questions that have appeared in the last couple of days. So let's have a. Did you see this one? Is it possible to make a soundpost from Willow or Cattails? Cattails.
Cattails.
I've looked.
A soundpost from Cattails.
Cattails. I've looked this up. This is it's another name for what we in England would call bulrush, which is like a reed that grows at the side of a river, and it's got looks like a sausage on a stick.
Yeah. I know the ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a soundpost.
Well, I know that the actual stem that the flowering bit is on is really quite stiff, but
yeah, I mean, a soundpost does take quite a lot of like pressure.
It does, but
sort of. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know is the answer from me.
Yeah. Two quite different materials there, Willow and Cattails.
I mean, Willow. Yeah, I personally I don't see why not.
Yes,
quite frankly,
Willow,
it's light, it's strong, it's resonant. So for me, that's everything you need.
Yeah.
And basically, you need to apply the same tests to the other material. Is it strong, light, and does it ring when you tap it? If it does, and it's about the right diameter, I guess you possibly could, but
why not? Yeah.
Yeah, who knows?
And of course with Willow, I guess, or like with all sort of materials apart from like spruce and other like coniferous woods, I guess if you're like using the traditional soundpost setter where you actually have to like basically stab it into the soundpost, with Willow I could sort of easily imagine sort of bits breaking away and sort of it
Possibly.
not really sort of tend to sort of splinter away.
I
Depending
guess,
on the willow, if it's like really dry old willow which is all like soft and sort of crumbly almost, like I know some willow can tend to be like this, so it might sort of cause slight issues, but
so I guess if the bulrush reed does actually meet those criteria, then the question is, if you have a particular desire to do it, if it's important to you, then fine. If not, I'd just stick with a bit of spruce or something personally. Then, Yankee Doodle, this ride with the two of you is starting to get interesting. Thank you. Yeah,
luckily it is starting to get interesting.
That's good. Yeah.
Great.
Right, Thomas. I was glad hearing the mics, but interesting to consider how to do this work without a bandsaw, etc. As Thibaut mentions, he cut the basic neck shape by hand. I really want to start making instruments, but I don't have a bandsaw or a table saw, so I have to figure out how to do everything by hand. I'm also thinking about an earlier video about making sacrificial forms, where I'm thinking I'd rather use the extra time to construct a form that can be taken apart, perhaps leaving a skeleton to support only the blocks and letting that be part that is sacrificed. I'm already used to doing work with hand tools, and mostly in a traditional way, so making instruments as in the olden days doesn't seem too far off. Well, I think you've said it all, really, haven't you? I mean, there's some of the greatest violins out there were made, entirely by hand, basically. They're all small components. On the videos, you will have seen me deeping, a full size sort of hardwood backs with a handsaw, because my bandsaw's not big enough. So yeah, it's all entirely possible.
It's all doable, yeah.
And actually it's quite good fun,
yeah.
in all honesty.
Some parts are really good fun to do by hands,
Moulds.
Yes,
the thing is, these moulds aren't sacrificial. They do come out. You have to be a little bit careful with the rib garland when you take them out. You normally take the corner off the block before you take them out, generally, but you take that out before you glue any of the plates on. if you want to keep a mould inside when you actually glue a plate on, which will make keeping the form, the shape, a little bit more consistent, more easy, then yeah, perhaps you could go down the route that you've seen me doing previously, which was sort of building a complex thing that unscrewed and came to pieces. But you can see that I'm back to using good old-fashioned moulds, because I came to the conclusion that actually the advantage that you got from a sort of a mould that could be taken to bits was minimal, in all honesty. So yeah.
And I mean, if you're like worried about not being able to take the mold out and you want to keep the mold inside for as long as possible, you could just go down the route of using a skeleton mold or like a double cross. And then it's slightly more complicated to sort of, when you're gluing the ribs, then obviously you have to be slightly more careful, because you can't sort of push them against the mold.
Did you see the video I did where I basically did a standard traditional mould, but I put a whole load of bandsaw cuts into it. So when I got to a certain stage, I just literally got a saw out and joined up some of the lines, and bits fell out, and that's a reasonable compromise.
Yeah. Or like, of course, another compromise which we have done before at Brienne's is having the double cross, but having like two thin sort of molds, or like they're basically like very thick templates which have the inside curve of the rib, and then they are like fastened to the mold on both sides. They sort of float above this, so you have like a big sandwich with like the inside outline of both the front and the back, and you have this cross sandwiched in between, and then you basically have these sort of molds to work to. You can like push the ribs and so on against it while gluing, and then you just remove, once you glued the ribs, you just remove those two templates, and then you sort of left with this skeleton cross in the middle. Yeah, I mean, there are loads of ways to do it.
And I mean, and that's before we even start talking about external molds, which is of course another approach, which has a whole set of advantages and a whole set of disadvantages. So, but this is where I am at the moment. So, who knows? Also from Thomas, you use bits of cork for all kinds of things. Can you talk about that? Yeah. And actually, are they from wine and also whiskey? And do you drink all of it yourself?
Well, I think the important bit is also to have champagne corks.
Oh yeah, yes.
They have the really good shape for the plain
that
handles.
really does work well, doesn't it? Yeah, no, my sister and my brother-in-law run a company which does actually do quite a bit of entertaining, and they have always saved all the corks. So it's very easy for me to get a whole big box full. And I mean, cork, it's fantastic because it's natural. In this case, it's free for me. You can cut it to do whatever you want, and you can make all sorts of things to hold things which don't damage the timber. So it's kind of a win-win for me. And yeah, there's certainly quite a few shoulder rests out there which have got bits of old champagne cork sort of on them from my workshop. Yeah. Fireman 9143. How do I get to see a cello making tutorial? I don't know. I'm. If that question's for me, I mean, basically my plan is to stick with violins, the occasional viola, and just try and learn how to make the perfect violin. And I mean, the cello is just such a different instrument again that I think I'm just going to steer clear of it. Basically, that's the coward's answer, but that's my answer. However,
yes, I am currently building my first cello, so I'm not planning on making a tutorial just yet. But who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the start of week 3. And we both did actually come in for a sort of a half day on Saturday and Sunday, simply because we're both sad and like being in the workshop, I suspect.
Absolutely.
But there we go. So things have moved on quite a bit since
Yes,
the
they
last
have.
video. Do you want to go first, or shall I go first?
I don't know. I'll go first.
Go first. Yeah.
Okay, yes, I've been working on the plates mainly. Can't remember where we left off on the last video. I think I had glued in the seabout purflings.
I think you were just putting in.
Or
No,
putting
you
in the
weren't.
rest. I don't know.
I think you just glued in the seabouts,
Yeah.
didn't you? So yeah,
So
clearly things have moved on.
I've now finished the purflings and I carved the fluting.
How did
around.
that purfling? How did you
Oh
find
yes, the purflings. So it was great, really, for gluing, for fitting. Everything was very simple, fairly quick. I mean, obviously you have like the longer waiting time because you do it in 2 steps, but obviously you can do other things while you wait for the seabout purflings to set. Otherwise I'm really happy with I mean, the aim of the method has absolutely been
because there's not
fulfilled.
a single damaged corner there, is there?
Yeah,
So,
and they're as crisp and as sharp as ever. However, I do find it's it's a completely different technique. So I did find that I didn't like sort of manage to give those corners quite the sort of shape that I would usually do on my violins. I've maybe got slightly now a blunter sort of point, and I haven't got sort of this sweeping sort of bee sting
do you think
shape.
Do you think that might be partly due to the nature of the purfling that we
Yes,
used? 'Cause
probably.
that was quite
The
hard
fact
to bend,
that it's a
wasn't it?
fairly hard, not very bendy wood is probably one bit, and then the other bit is probably that they are so thick.
Yeah.
Like, I did sort of want to make them quite thick, but not quite as thick as they ended up being.
They look good,
So
though.
yeah, they do look
Yeah,
good
they look
in
really
the
nice.
end, yeah, and it fits the cherry wood, I think. to have
I think
this
so.
Sort of underlining sort of feature running around. Yeah, and so I finished basically all the outside of the plates, carved the archings and scraped them to basically finish. I probably might do a bit more cleaning up on the finished instrument, but not so much. And then on the front I already started and got fairly far with hollowing out the front, and I already cut out the F-holes. They're just roughly done with the saw so far, just so that I could see like what I was doing on the inside, so that I don't end up making the wings here too thin, because I have done quite a lot of like of shaping from the outside. So before I hollowed out, I just like took out quite a bit of material from the outside to give the F-holes like a 3-dimensional
And do you
look.
like that? Do you
Yes,
like that?
yes,
Yeah.
I really like
Yeah.
that. I have
I thought you would.
seen loads of people do it in Brienz, but I was always
Yeah.
a bit too lazy to do it myself, to sort of,
Yeah.
I was like reluctant to try out this new technique. But now that I done it for a first
It
time,
gives it just a bit more interest, doesn't
Yeah,
it? And I'll tell you
It
what,
makes
after
it come
you've
to
done a
life,
few of
really.
these, when you start looking at violins which don't have any sculpting on it, when it's just it just looks like a flat with a thing cut out, and they visually they become a little bit disappointing after you've played around like this, I think.
Yeah,
But anyway,
yeah,
no, so it's coming on amazingly well. That's great.
yeah, it is.
Yeah. That's basically you're up to date then, aren't you?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. And I have I've been working on those 2 violins that you've been watching me do at a painfully slow progress rate over the last few weeks. And then I also started on this one. But following our visit last week to Rod Ward's, we both been talking about, the sequence of construction, and I decided I was going to actually sort of do the plates, glue the whole thing together before I did the edge work properly and before I did the purfling. The reasoning behind that is that you can actually sort of make the shape really work sympathetically with the sides and really precisely. And this obviously led through to a conversation about how violins used to be put together, and Baroque violins were made with the neck fastened to the rib garland before the front and the back were made. And there's quite a lot of evidence that, for example, Guarneri, the deformation, the changes of shape, the irregularities in his violins were him sort of actually just using one standard pattern, but shifting it around a bit to actually get the neck to line up properly on the violin when he was gluing the plates on. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I kind of thought, okay, well, let's follow this through to the absolute final conclusion. I will do the neck and fasten it to the rib garland in the same way before I make the the plates. So that's what I've done. So I think I was bending ribs last time you saw, so that would have been on Friday. Obviously, I think. Anyway, I can't remember the exact sequence, but there we are. The rib garland's all together, and today I've just finished off the scroll, and I've just glued the neck onto the rib garland. Not in a sort of a Baroque style with a sort of just a butt joint with a nail going through. I have actually done a dovetail, well, a normal sort of housing as you would find on a modern classical violin. So that's where I am at the moment. Tomorrow I will probably do a little bit more work on the two violins and actually sort of start fitting them up actually the next day or two. I've also got a repair that I've been talking about for days that I haven't yet done, but this will move forward as well. So I've got the front and the back all ready to go. So yeah, that's where I am.
Yeah.
So I think that's it, really, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Pretty much. Can't think of anything else. So yeah, signing off. Yeah. Cheers, folks. Look after yourselves. Bye then.
Bye.